Mr. Crosland try in 1987? Frank.
I've got the answer.
What's that?
The guillotine.
Wrong.
Oh.
Is that why you kicked me and said, I want the first answer, I want the first
Yes,
answer?
indeed,
Wasn't
yes.
worth it, wasn't worth it.
Well, I always remember, there's nothing strange about the hiccup. I walked into the chemist shop and I said, could you give me something for the hiccup? Hit me a slap in the mouth. He said, that's it, gone. I said, it's not for me, it's for the wife, she's in the car.
There is a cure for hiccups, actually. It's also a cure for insomnia. Before you go to bed, you drink 6 pints of ice-cold water. Not only will it cure your hiccups, it gives you something to get up and do while you're lying awake. No, I think to stop hiccups, all you need is...
Stop the hiccups!
To stop hiccups, all you need is a little patience, controlled breathing, and Cilla Black coming up behind you saying, surprise, surprise! What about a blind date with me, Shucks?
Actually, Ken is very near the truth there, because the most effective way to cure hiccups is by a fright, of course. And this gentleman, Mr. John Crosland, was a plumber, was he not?
He was.
Yes, well, being a plumber, he managed to cure his hiccups by sending himself an estimate.
Well, it needs a horrendous shock.
Horrendous.
That's a good word, isn't it? Horrendous shock. You should put the man in a sauna with Frank Carson.
Well, I remember going into the chemist shop and I had the hiccup and I said, could you make me out something quick? He said, yes, Michael Jackson was in here 10 minutes ago. I said, what? He said, no, I just made that up quick.
Talking of chemist shops.
Yeah.
You can always tell a chemist. You can always tell a chemist on holiday.
Why can you tell a chemist on holiday?
You can always tell a chemist on holiday, because in the bar he's always drinking pills.
Talking of chemists.
Yeah.
You're making a pills of
Alfred
it.
is trying to talk of...
That's all right, I've all the time in the world.
Yeah, go on.
I know I'm a guest, and therefore should be treated like this, like
Full marks.
rubbish.
Right, well, you've just done
I
yourself
know
out
a
of slice
woman.
of cake.
This is going to be well. By the time I get this, it's going to be well worth it. This will get a standing ovation.
Yeah? Well, none of us have had one of those for years.
We all have our problems, Ken. We all have our problems. I know a girl. This is going to get such a laugh by the time I get to... I can't begin to tell you. I know a girl.
Yes.
Who took the aspirin for 20 years, believing it to be the pill.
Oh, no.
Would you believe that?
No.
She has 20 children, but has never had a headache.
I'm afraid Alfred and I were the only people who stood there.
That's all right.
We're
the only ones who were young enough to stand.
Well, I don't think you're going to get this. What, in fact, Mr. Crosland did, his final remedy for hiccups, was to have a rib removed, which he was told by the doctor would give his diaphragm more freedom. And it did, and the hiccups stopped for 24 hours. Then they returned, and Mr. Crosland is now resigned to them. These days, he says, I'd feel lost without them. So he's a happy man with his hiccups.
Well,
minus one rib.
Fitting with a silencer.
This brings me back to a lovely true story of Mr. O'Flaherty, who went and he had a...
How are you spelling that?
O-F-L-A-H-R-D, Flaherty. And he said...
It was worth
the
a
parish
try.
priest came out to see him. He says, I've got these hiccups. I can't stop hiccuping. And the parish priest said, well... He says, you know what does it? He says, you're drinking cheap wine, you're masquerading with dirty, sexy women, and he says, you're staying at all times of the day and night and you're blowing every penny, and God is paying you for that. He says, oh, he says, the Pope has it as well. Well, that's me out of the church again. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned.
And so we come to On the Spot, friends. On the Spot is the part of the program where we put our guests into a nasty hole and see if they can climb out of it. Here is your dilemma for this week. You're on your way to a fancy dress party, dressed and made up as Marie Antoinette in a costume that Danny LaRue would envy. Then your car breaks down on the motorway and you're forced to thumb a lift. A lorry driver picks you up, but after 10 minutes he turns off into a lonely road and switches off the engine. It seems he may be about to force his attentions on you. Outside, a blizzard is raging. What do you do, Alfred?
Well, there again, it's a situation in which I found myself in. It's very extremely strange.
Go ahead, blubbermouth.
Well, he said I wasn't in the Marie Antoinette costume, but I was in a Marilyn Monroe outfit, you know, with a rah-rah skirt. And same thing, broke down. This lorry came along, and I got in, and he was a giant. This chap, this lorry driver, big hairy monster, man who bites the heads off Yorkie bars, you know. And he drove into this quiet lane, and I felt a hand on my ankle. Well, there was no way I could match this fellow, because this fellow was 6'7", an absolute giant. And so I let him have his way to a degree, you know. And he fondled me and cuddled me and kissed my cheek. And then his hand started wandering up my leg. And I thought, it's got to stop now, you see. And I leaned and whispered in his ear, "Don't scream when you get to the Y fronts, Carruthers, MI5.
Ken, what's your solution?
I just grabbed my handbag and hit him on his Scarlet Pimpernel. I mean, I think anybody who starts dressing up as Marie Antoinette to go to fancy dress party can be very embarrassing. You know, I went to one the other week. I dressed up as a lamppost. How was I to know? The lady had 6 Alsatians. My car broke down on the motorway last night.
Yeah.
So I can't go any further. I can't go on. So we got Claire Rayner out to it, and it was all right after all.
Yes, well, I remember stopping on the motorway running out of petrol. And this car pulled in front of me. Says, "Hey, you're Frank Carson, the comedian." I said, "Yes." He says, "Right. What's wrong, Frank? We're Irish men together." "What's wrong?" I said, "I've run out of petrol." He said, "Right. Follow me. I have a full tank." But I was behind a lorry just about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and the driver got out every 25 or 30 yards and started hitting the side of the lorry with an iron bar. So I pulled in behind him. He says, "What the hell are you doing that for?" He says, "Well, this is a 10-ton lorry." I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I've got 12 ton of budgies in there and I want to keep the weight off the axle." But there was a friend of mine who drove a lorry along the motorway, and he pulled in, and it was a security car watching him, AMI 6 1/4. And he opened the boot, and he pulled out a Guinness, chocolate biscuits, some after-eight mints, and a large brandy, and drove on. So the undercover man says, "If he does that again, we'll nick him." So he pulled in again, opens up the boot, has a large brandy, a glass of Guinness, and just said, "Right, you're under arrest." He said, "What for?" He said, "You're acting in suspicious circumstances." Just, "What do you mean, suspicious? I'm on a works outing." He said, "But you're on your own." He said, "No, I'm self-employed."
On to agony aunts. Now, this is where the nation waits for your advice, your wisdom, your skill in solving human problems. This is a distraught wife in Grimsby. She writes to us as follows. "My problem may seem trivial, but it is driving me mad. I cannot stop my husband humming. Whatever he's doing, he hums a tune. Usually, 'Smile for Me, My Diana.' Or Diane, depending on Paul Anker's pronunciation. This is especially annoying as my name is Hilda. Is there any way I can stop this, or at least get him to try some new tunes? Now, what should she do, Alfred?
Well, I sympathize, because I have exactly the same problem. Really? My wife doesn't...
You hum, you mean?
Well, yes, that as well. But my wife doesn't only hum tunes, she actually sings tunes in her sleep. I don't know whether she is asleep, I have my doubts. And she sings songs like, "Is That All There Is?" You know. Or, "I Can't Get No Satisfaction."
What about "Thanks for the Memory"?
That as well.
Or "Now Is the Hour."
Sunday night she sings,
It only takes
"What's
a
It
minute.
All About, Alfie?" is another one she does. I got my own back on her once. I sang, "If you were the only girl in the world and I was the only boy, okay, but right now, do me a favor, will you?" I should advise this woman to change her name to Diane.
That would make things better.
That would be all
What
right.
this lady could, she could tie a bell round his neck, then he'd be a humdinger.
Yeah.
Do you know what's sexy, passionate, and hums?
No. Oh, boy. I do wish this was television. There are people, you know, there are people out there who don't even know what you look like. You're actually plugging yourself as a sexy, irresistible man. Let me tell you here
Which I
now,
am, which
you
I am.
are ugly. You are, and not only do I say
Yeah,
you're
and you-
ugly,
and
my
you-
wife even says you're ugly. Do you know what she says? You're actually uglier than me. Now, that's saying something. Mr. Marks, would you come in? Who is the uglier? Who is the ugliest
Of us two.
of us? Go on, be honest. Come
Be
on.
honest, go on. You're an intellectual.
Come on.
There's very little to choose, actually.
Well, to be quite honest, Ken.
I don't mind that.
Hands across the sea, Ken. No offense.
No offence.
Now, Ken, you can defend yourself
He's
now.
uglier than both of us.
No, what she could do with this man, she could get him to change his name to Bogart, and it'd be Humphrey Bogart. Some people have very irritating habits. I mean, humming, would get it. Or it's when they just sing parts of a song and the message,
I don't
you
know.
know.
I know. I know a fella who.
Goodbye, it's
That's
time.
right. But I know a fellow who does. He actually does his own orchestrations. Now, for the people who don't know about music, that is, he puts in his own bits. You know, he's saying, he might sing, "Love is like a violin, with the strings around your heart." And then when he goes that far, then he goes into a song and doesn't know the words at all. A Jim Reeves song like, say, "Put your sweet lips a little closer." He goes, home, all for the same,
For listeners who've just switched on, this is not the Eurovision Song Contest.
Eh?
Do-wah,
Do-wah, that's
They're
another
the people
one,
in the
yes.
background.
Do-wah,
Perhaps this fella's a fan of Angry Bird Hummerdinck.
yeah. Do-wah. Frank Carson for pull the other one here in London. Back to you in the studio. That might be a good idea for the woman who snores. Now she's worried about her husband. Pull the other one.
Right, well, we've solved your problem, madam, I think pretty convincingly.
I think so.
Do you know why bees hum?
No.
Because they don't know the words.
Oh, come on now. Come on, Ken, behave yourself.
Now we come to our final burst of tall talery. In 1978 in New Zealand, 70 dogs were to be seen wearing booties on their paws. Why was this?
Well, their shoes are at the cobblers, obviously.
Correct. No, it's not correct. Alfred.
Well, it's a very short answer, actually. I mean, if you shared a range with 3,000 sheep, you'd wear boots as well, wouldn't you? You know, wouldn't just walk around.
They'd been
like-
shoplifting at Mothercar. Does it say what breed these dogs are? I mean, because you can tell different breeds of dogs. You know, and if you see one with a scarf around his neck, that's a little husky. Or
No, it doesn't.
Ah.
All we're told are that there are 70 dogs wearing booties. We cannot reveal, alas, at this
I
time.
remember of this fellow saying to me, "Would you keep your eye out from a dog?" I said, "What type?" He says, "Well, it's a Jack Russell with a white underbelly and a brown patch on his shoulder and it's one eye, and it walks with a limp because of milk throat on over its paw." I said, "Good God." And he said, "My wife fell over. It was a pup and its backside hit the bar's electric fire. And from the back it looks like a monkey." I said, "What do you call your dog?" He said, "Lucky."
obviously, if they're wearing these, they were hush puppies, weren't they?
No, I think I know the answer to that one, because in actual fact, I happened to be in Germany when I saw these dogs, and they were RAF dogs, and they were walking around with boots on, because if they hadn't, they wouldn't have been able to draw an army pay. It was one of the regulations. And the boots had no laces either.
You used to have a watchdog.
I did have a watchdog, yeah. Watched every bite you eat.
Dogs can be extremely intelligent. I
course they
had a friend who had a dog, and this
okay.
dog actually was at university studying foreign languages.
Queen's University, obviously.
Of course. And I said to my friend, I said, is he really? Yes, he said, he's really studying foreign language. I said to this dog, say something in a foreign language. The dog went, meow. Good, isn't it?
Yes, it's excellent.
It's not true. It's a joke, actually.
Well, the way you tell him.
No, it's not true.
Well, I went into a pub one night, and there was a dog playing the piano, and it was playing "Non Shall Sleep" from Puccini's opera Turandot, and I couldn't believe it. I said to the bar owner, I said, "That's absolutely marvelous, that dog." He said, "Yes, he even composes his own music." I said, "You should have it orchestrated," and I haven't seen the dog since.
Why were these dogs wearing booties?
Well, it was probably in the early days when down in the Antipodes, they were making this remake of this Errol Flynn film, and the dogs that they got for the shot, unfortunately, all their feet were the wrong colour. So they gave them these little, they dyed these socks and made them wear them, and the film was called They Died With Their Boots On. What's the difference, Frank? Can you tell me? Because I'm interested in anything canine.
Yes, well, of course, I spent 2 years at Queen's University.
Yeah, well, what's the difference between an Irish Terrier and a Scotch
Terrier?
Yeah.
Obviously, the accent. And an Irish Terrier.
What about an Irish Setter then? What's that?
Well, an Irish Setter is a Russian bricklayer.
Well, on that particular one, in fact, the person who got closest was Alfred, because with his first suggestion about the sheep, it wasn't quite the sheep why they were protecting their legs, but the dogs with the fancy footwear were in fact sniffer dogs belonging to the New Zealand police, and their duties often take them into public houses, and the boots were to protect their feet from broken glass on the floor after pub brawls.
Quick thinking,
so
Batman.
not sheep, but you were very close.
Not far off. Yeah.
We've just got time for one last tall tale.
Mr. Frost, I'm sorry for that interruption.
Not at all. Not at all.
My pleasure, sir.
We just have time.
Thank you very much indeed for asking me along on the programme. It's always a great privilege to work with a great professional.
Oh, stop. Come on. Stop slobbering.
Oh, all right, then. You put me up to it. You said he would buy drinks. I mean, you butter him up. And you said he'd give me a fancy tie as well.
You've got to use real butter, not that.
Okay, sorry about that frosty face.
Frank Castle's last radio show.
Right.
Just time to put this to you. Postwoman Sarah Hampson became a heroine to British Gas recently when she used a certain part of her anatomy to avert disaster. How did she achieve this, and which part of her body was involved, Alfred?
Yes, well, we'll avoid the obvious, won't we? We talk about parts of the anatomy, won't we?
Of course.
We won't be crude and obvious.
Of course.
The part of her anatomy she used actually was her nose, believe it or not.
Do you believe that, Ken?
No, it sounds like the story we all were told when we were little boys and girls about the little Dutch boy, you know, who stopped the dike when the hole in the dike was flooding.
I remember that. He put his fist in the
Is that what it? Oh, well,
wall,
you obviously had a different one than me then.
Much larger dike.
I thought he was much braver than that. You wouldn't have caught me doing it. No.
Yeah.
I think British Gas do a wonderful job, you know. They get a lot of stick, but except North Sea gas is a bit inconvenient.
Yes, indeed, because an Irish friend of mine.
You have to go out in a boat if you want to boil a kettle.
Yeah. An Irish friend of mine threw himself in there to try and gas himself.
Mm-hmm. You see, the human body is like there's so many parts you can use.
Molecules. I studied the human body.
Multi-purpose.
I studied the human body at King's University
body
for 2 years. Molecular study it was. Insubordination of the chromosomes.
Don't it?
Yep.
The human body really is multi-purpose. It's like a Swiss Army knife. You know, there's a gadget for everything. Isn't there? You know, you think about it, and the male body is totally different to the female body.
Oh,
hooray! Well, I'm just going to say that this girl could have been a nudist, and I knew one who wouldn't even get sunburn because you want to get married in white.
You see, most people are ambidextrous, and you can't say that about a tomcat.
Do you know how you tell the sex of a chromosome?
No.
No.
Does it matter?
You look up its genes.
Really?
Yes, that's very good.
Many
Yeah.
people have saved Britain in times of crisis.
Oh,
I mean,
you're joking.
Frank Carson
George
averted...
McGonagall.
Frank Carson averted a great disaster
Oh,
to the
sure.
fate of the island. He didn't turn up.
My father got the military medal for destroying the enemy lines of communication. He ate the pigeon.
You told me that your father deserted during the military two-step.
Well,
This lady, Sarah Hampson,
Yeah.
heroine, obviously, well, sat on a gasometer, and yes, and her weight.
well, let us now just, instead of being funny, which we haven't been, let us just think of it. A postwoman and British gas. Obviously, there is a connection. I know what's happened, because I was going to read out a letter here tonight about post office efficiency and didn't turn up. But I would think what has happened here, this woman has blew a gasket. What about, how would you like to have a registered stove at your doorstep? Can you imagine one of those big envelopes with the fluffy balloons inside? And you don't believe that, do you?
I don't believe that one second. No.
You're looking at me as if I was talking stupid. Pardon?
She was looking for a first-class mail.
Well, in fact, the person who's closest is Alfred, because...
He's been closest for the last 4 times. Why shouldn't we get close? What's wrong? All right, you bring this fella in. We've been funny for weeks and weeks and weeks. 2 series. Suddenly they bring this fella in, or the whole show's going up in the air, and we're not getting the same laugh.
because
he's brought reality into the show.
trying to make it
Did you not realise that this show's gone down the neck, so the producer said, the hell with that, bring Alfred Marks in.
Make it intellectual.
Well, I hope I'm not on this show again with Alfred Marks. That's all I can say.
I shall see to that.
Well,
If
the
you
reason
don't stop- if you don't stop insulting him, he'll sing.
the part of Sarah Ham's anatomy most treasured by the gas board is indeed her nose.
There you are, you see.
She can smell gas leaks where no one else can. She's detected more than 100 leaks, including one 4 foot underground, which took gasmen then 2 months to trace. So you're absolutely right. Alfred Marks, hit it on the head or the nose. Right, that's all we've got time for, I'm afraid, friends. If you've got any tall tales to amaze us with, or personal problems you'd like discreetly aired, we'd love to hear from you. For now, this is David Frost saying thank you for joining us on behalf of Kenneth Dodd, Alfred Marks, and Franklin Carson, Andrew Palmer and NELL Brennan, who devised and researched, and our producer, the one and only Edward Taylor. We hope you'll be with us again next time. It's time to pull the other one.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the past half hour as much as I did. And there's another chance to hear all those tall stories on Saturday at 1 o'clock. At 11 o'clock this evening, Brian Matthew presents Round Midnight, and among his guests this evening are jazz pianist Roy Budd, and Brian will also be finding out about the National Young Theatre Challenge, with Hetty Shan, the administrator, and Bridget Pannett explaining the aims and background to the competition. And you can hear Round Midnight between 11 and 1 this evening.
Entertainment Radio 2.
Well, it's now 10:30 and time to join Nick Jackson with Star Sound Cinema.
Tonight on Star Sound Cinema, we concentrate on 2 big movie names, screen comedian Steve Martin and one of Hollywood's greatest directors, Elia Kazan. whose autobiography is published